All right, so one of the things I made for today is a sheet pan cilantro lime chicken. And you take some chicken breasts, slice them up, and some peppers, and I'm gonna grab, let's see. So this is the cilantro lime sheet pan chicken. Isn't that pretty? I'm gonna walk around, show the camera. Yeah, if you wanna do that, Mark. Yes, awesome. It's really super easy, and I have all the recipes that I'm going to talk about printed out. So if you're interested, I've got the apple muffin one here also. So the cilantro lime chicken, start with 2 chicken breasts. We're going to cut them up in 1/4-inch strips. We've got the peppers. I grew those peppers in my garden. A couple of cloves of garlic, some chopped cilantro, a little bit of olive oil, although I used the hemp oil, and the juice of 1 lime. I added a little zest, some cumin, some paprika, a little salt and pepper. I threw that in a Ziploc bag, threw it in the fridge for a few hours to marinate, put it on the sheet pan, bake it, 15 minutes, it's ready out of the oven. So, not only would I have that for a meal, maybe put it on top of a salad, I'm looking at that as like a breakfast dish too. Add some scrambled eggs to it, make a little breakfast taco. The first time I made it, I didn't have any chicken breasts, but what I had was whole pieces of chicken. I thought, well, why wouldn't that work? Well, sure, it'll work. I needed to bake it just a little differently. So I did the same thing, or I left it whole, added all the spices, put it in the Ziploc bag, let it marinate overnight, pulled it out. I put the chicken in a big roaster pan, put it in the oven. So I put the chicken in for a half hour, pulled it out, then added the vegetables in there, stuck it back in for about another half hour or so, took the lid off, let it brown, and I'm thinking, oh, there was all this juice in the bottom of this roasting pan. I'm like, I can't let that go to waste. So I'm always thinking about what else I can do with the meal. So I grabbed that juice. Oh, that's for the corn. So yeah. All right, so I grabbed all that good ooey gooey juice that was in the bottom of the roaster, and I dumped that in my kettle. I took a little bit of chicken broth, added that to it, took some of the small pieces of chicken off, maybe some of the dark meat, threw that in the pot, and then I added a can of beans. I like my soup really, really thick, so I thought, well, what can I put in there to thicken it up? I'm like, oh, well, a can of refried beans, that would thicken it up. Oh my gosh, it was so good. Chopped a little cilantro on top of it. I've got some sauces that I drizzle on top of it too. I don't know if you can start to smell how fresh that is with the cilantro and the lime. And I'm single. What I hear from people is that, oh, it's just me. I don't want to cook. I don't want to cook. Okay, I do it. I do it every Sunday. I prep everything. I prep a breakfast. I prep lunch and dinner. I've got it in my fridge. I don't have to think in the morning. I just grab my breakfast out, I grab my lunch out, throw it in my lunch pail, and I'm out the door in seconds. I come home, I'm outside in the garden. I don't come in till 9 o'clock at night, whatever it is. I pull my lunch or my dinner out, pop it in the microwave, warm it up. It's ready within seconds. I don't have to think about it. I don't have to thaw anything out. I already did that on Sunday. If I have extra stuff, I'll stick it in the freezer. So then later on, if someone else comes over, I might have, let me pull out that soup. I've got 4 cups of that soup in there, or chili. So I'm always thinking ahead. I hate throwing stuff away too. I literally see when I take some produce or whatever it is and throw it away, I can see the dollar sign of what that cost me at the grocery store. And I'm thinking, oh my God, that was $5. That was, okay, how long did I have to work to make that money? So thrifty is so important for me too. Let's see, we've got, when I was making the cilantro lime chicken, I thought, okay, so I've got this bunch of cilantro. What am I going to do with the rest of it? Well, then I came across a recipe for a creamy avocado cilantro lime dressing. I'm like, oh, that sounds really good. All of my favorite things in there. So I have samples of that for us today to try too on your taco. It is this beautiful, beautiful green color. And it's super, super easy too. It has 1 avocado, a clove of garlic, the chopped cilantro. You can use sour cream or Greek yogurt. I use sour cream this time. I've used yogurt in the past. And then you can use the lime juice, lemon juice, or vinegar. This has lime because limes were 3 for $1. The recipe calls for olive oil. I use the hemp oil, a little bit of salt, and a little bit of pepper. Put that all through your blender or your food processor, and you can add a little bit of water. It's really thick, so it would be a good potato topping. I've put it on chili, I've put it on the soup. Thin it out with a little water. It's a great salad dressing. You don't have any of the extra sugars in there, no preservatives. It's all healthy, natural things. One of the other things I'd like to mention too is my husband had a heart problem, and he was retaining water. And for years, the doctors have been telling him, reduce your sodium, you're retaining water too much. And he blew him off. And then finally, the message went through, and he said, I'm going to do it. I thought, yeah, sure, yeah, I've heard this. But no, honestly, he felt so much better from reducing his sodium down. It was an instant change for him. His health improved dramatically. If you look at some of the cans of stuff that are in the store, I remember the first time I went to the grocery store, because he's like, throw everything out. I was like, everything? Yep, throw it all out, donate it, whatever. So I went to the store and I thought, okay, I've got to replenish my pantry. I started looking at labels. That's eye-opening when you start looking into labels. The preservatives, the sugars, the sodium, it's off the chart. It's a chemical shitstorm is what it is. I spent like 4 hours in the store reading labels up and down, and I had a few things in my cart. I went out to the car and I cried. I thought, oh my God, how are we gonna do this? How am I gonna do this for him? Started searching on the internet, found some low sodium groups, very helpful. And that kind of spawned a lot of my cooking from scratch. No more boxes, no more cans, unless it's a can of beans or raw ingredients. It really made a huge change for him. I think it probably added maybe 4 or 5 more years to his life. He wouldn't have lived the way he was going on with that diet. He did pass away in February of 2020. And it's been tough, but again, I still cook for myself, and it's the lifelong friendships that I've made through those groups, through events like this, meeting with Tom. I started cooking with the hemp because of the event I went to last year. I came and, was it Hemp Acres? Was that the name of it? Okay, so they handed out bottles of their cooking oil. I got a bottle, it sat on my shelf. It's looking at me like, Tom's like, Sue, I love all your food prep. I'm like, I need to figure out something to do with that hemp oil. It's looking at me, it's taking up space. So I started searching for recipes. And the first one I found was this shaved Brussels sprout salad with a creamy apple cider vinaigrette. I thought, all right, that sounds interesting. Let's give that a try. So instead of using cabbage, they take the Brussels sprouts and you shave them down like a cabbage. What I love about the Brussels sprouts is, you know how when you make coleslaw, it like gets really juicy? Brussels sprouts don't do that. They stay crispier, and so for my meal prep, I'm like, great, this will stay longer in the fridge. It's also dairy-free. My youngest daughter has a problem with dairy. So you get this nice coleslaw without the dairy. So I'm just gonna go through a few of the ingredients in the vinaigrette part of it. You take the hemp hearts and you grind them up. Tom gave me hemp seed, so I used the whole seed in this. It gives it a little, I'm gonna say earthier, nuttier flavor, and it's great. I've got some for lunch today, so you can sample that. So the hemp hearts, apple cider vinegar, a little bit of water, some mustard, whole grain or Dijon. I've got maple syrup in there, a little bit of sea salt, a little bit of pepper, and then it calls for avocado oil. Of course, I use the hemp oil because I had that. So take all of those ingredients except for the oil, you put them in your blender, get a nice consistency, and then add the oil in very slowly at the end. You will get a wonderful dressing. That looks like this. And I mean, that certainly looks like a dairy dressing, and this is dairy-free. I don't know if you guys want to pass it around and take a look, or I'll just put that there for now. All right, so the rest of the ingredients, we've got a pound of Brussels sprouts that I shaved, a little bit of red onion, chopped apple, and then some pecans. Sounds like a pretty good salad. So we will try that one today. They have other recommendations of adding maybe some hemp seeds on top of it, some bacon, or I was even thinking with that dressing, like a broccoli salad. I mean, it's so versatile. It's kind of like you go through one door and it leads you down this other, like, oh, I can do this with that, and I can do that with this. All right, we'll talk a little bit about the apple muffins too. The apple muffins are actually a vegan recipe. There's whole wheat flour, almond flour, hemp seeds, some baking powder, some sea salt, cinnamon, nutmeg, some unsweetened applesauce, a little maple syrup. I used a combination of coconut milk and almond milk, and then a little bit of vanilla. The crumble on top is almond flour, coconut oil, and a little bit of brown sugar. I put a little cinnamon in there too. They're a little more dense because of the applesauce in there and the whole wheat flour. I think they're delicious. Please have more. They froze really well too. The first batch I made, I didn't want to eat all 12 of them at once, so I put a few of them in the freezer. A few weeks later, I'd pull one out. They froze really well. I'm thinking this fall, I'm gonna try the recipe and try it with some pumpkin and see, make something a little different with the pumpkin. I'm not quite sure the ratio of how much to put in there, but sounds like a good experiment to me. The guys I work with love it when I do experiments, because I bring everything into work and be like, okay, what do you think? Try this. Like I said, I don't cook for a job. I do it because I love it. And I love to eat. That's I guess go hand in hand, and plus I'm cheap. I go to the restaurant and I'm thinking, oh my God, I've got better steak than that in my freezer. I've got, and I worked in a restaurant for many, many years, and I know it's all heat and eat. You order a meatloaf dinner, they pull it out, they pop it in the microwave, and your mashed potatoes popped in the microwave. It's like, or it's just add water to them. It's not the homemade from scratch. So when Tom was talking about the Victory Gardens and things like that, I knew at the beginning of the pandemic, I was trying to get canning lids. You could not find a canning lid to save your life. At least in my area, you couldn't. I went to Woodman's in La Crosse 2 weeks ago, and it was the first time I could buy a canning lid in over 2 years in that store. I thought, oh my gosh, my dad could get them up in Duluth, but not in La Crosse. I don't know what it was. I know our hardware store lady, she said too that she couldn't get any tomato cages to stock the store. They were all out. I have seen in some of the canning groups I'm in too, they've talked about how people started the canning and now they're kind of backing away from it. I think the reward is worth the work myself. I don't know if you guys have any questions for me at all I know I kind of went through everything really fast. Yes?
I've never cooked with hemp oil before.
You never cooked with hemp oil before?
No, is there like some oils you can only bake at a certain temperature?
Yeah, I don't know what the level is. It's you don't want to have it very hot. So I use it in a lot of more like salad dressings. I wouldn't fry with it. I know Tom, they use it like for drizzles, right? What else do you guys?
Like for veggies.
Veggies, yep.
For veggies on the grill or something like that. So that works great for that, yeah.
And you said you put it on your chicken.
Yeah, I did put it in the marinade for the chicken. I did put it, where else did I put it? It's in the dressing for the broccoli, I always say broccoli, the Brussels sprout slaw too. So I've used it more for dressings. I have my olive oil, like if I fry an egg or something like that. Another thing I wanted to mention too was about like the food pyramid. Well, it's not even a pyramid anymore, it's a plate. Okay. Before when it was the pyramid, the grains, the pasta, the rice, it was 8 to 11 servings a day. I don't even think I have that in a month. No, I really don't. But a day, that's crazy. And so when I looked at the food pyramid this morning, they had changed it a little bit. The grains had gone back to 30%, because before they were at the bottom of the pyramid, the base of it. I thought, no wonder we've got problems if that's, but something simple for me for breakfast. I don't have chickens, my neighbors do. I'd like to, but I'm gone a lot. So I'll get eggs from them. I'll make a breakfast casserole. I'll take a dozen eggs, scramble them up, beat them up. I'll add some cooked sausage, maybe chicken, maybe pork, maybe turkey sausage. I fried, add that in there. Any kind of vegetable that you want. Before I was always like, vegetables for breakfast? What is this you talk about? Now it's an area where I get a lot of my vegetables. If I did make that egg casserole, what would I put on top of it before? Tater tots, right? Tater tots or hash browns. I don't do that anymore. Or if I do, it's a rare occasion. What I do now instead is I take frozen cauliflower, steam that, let it thaw out, put that on top of my egg casserole, put a little cheese, a little bacon bits, pop that in the oven. I've taken it to several family get-togethers. No one said anything that there's not potatoes in there. Not one. Not one. Nobody. I'd almost like to do a day where I just talk about cauliflower and how you can use cauliflower instead of potatoes. I thought about that today, but maybe next year. I've got a really awesome potato salad where you use cauliflower. I've got a cheesy cauliflower recipe. I've got a soup that I love potato soup, right? One of my most favorite things for winter. It's a soup made out of cauliflower and leeks, and you'd never, ever know that it was cauliflower and not a potato, not a starchy vegetable. So, did you have a question, sir? Yes.
Just call attention to some of the things I've learned over the years, decades ago already, where essentially you're talking about smoke point, that you don't want even olive oil, but the so-called vegetable oils that you can buy, corn, soy, and canola, probably raised with Roundup, and you get trace Roundup in there. But you mentioned something about looking in the grocery store for something. About 20, 25 years ago, Nursing Traditions Cookbook, Sally Fallon talked about hydrogenated vegetable oil.
Yes, yes.
Worst thing ever. It's
Yep.
literally made in the chemistry lab.
And you think about, you go, I'm sure we've all gone through McDonald's and that one fry falls out and it gets underneath your seat. And you find it 6 months later. It still looks just like it did.
Well, my wife grew up with canola, not Crisco.
Sure. Oleo is what my grandma had in the fridge,
And my mom
Oleo.
was always lard. Home rendered.
Yep, lard, yep.
And so my wife would do a little bit of baking, and she had the can of Crisco in the cupboard, and after I educated myself on hydrogenated vegetable oils, then I took that can of Crisco and pointed it out on the label, and I walked over to the trash can and I just threw it on. She spent 3 hours in the grocery store the next time. She said, it's got
Everything,
Why is
everything.
it? Because it's cheap.
It's
and
cheap,
it's
yeah.
shelf life.
It's cheap and the shelf life, definitely.
But there again, I get pastured pork and I render my own lard.
Discussion we had in the office last week, one of the gals I work with, she's like, sometimes I eat bread and it's okay, it doesn't bother me, and other times it bothers me. I said, well, do you know what they do to the wheat when they harvest it? She said, no.
The University of Minnesota guy, that the professor would actually change the wheat, and he got the Nobel, I think he got a Nobel Peace Prize or something for that, because it's supposed to feed the world.
Oh, yes.
And ever since then, he has realized, just like Alan Savory, he killed all those elephants to save nature, it was the exact opposite.
They spray Roundup, glyphosate on it to kill it, to dry it so it all dries at the same rate so they can harvest it at the same time.
Because these farms are getting so huge, they need to do it quick. Well, when we have 1,000 farmers out here instead of 100 farmers, we have 1,000 farmers to do it now. 100 farmers can't. We have to buy bigger and bigger equipment. We have to do it faster because climate change extremes are altered. It's just a vicious cycle.
One of the things, Tom, when you were talking about marketing direct to the consumer, so I work with our farmers on their nutrient management plan, and they were coming into the office, and we're going over their numbers, and it was different last year when I was talking with them, because they'd say, be like, well, how's it going? Well, you know what? I fed 30 families this year. I was able to sell my beef directly, and they were ecstatic. They were 75-year-old guy excited about farming again. He could see the direct correlation of feeding that family. He was excited. I'm like, yay!
I want to call attention, you talk about income and the numbers. I believe you had a chart up there, gross farm income.
Yep.
But the problem is what's happening to the net farm income, and since what goes in your pocket has probably been going down.
They were both up there.
Oh, I
One
didn't
was
saw
at
it.
one
I missed
color,
it.
and the idea was to show that the gross is going way up, but the net is absolutely tanking. And so, I'm sorry I didn't explain it well, but I kind of flew through it, but
Well, and it's all about what's left after your expenses. And Rick Bieber, about 20, 30 years ago in Plainview, he's got a YouTube presentation, No Till on the Plains, talks about getting into farming in the farm crisis of the 80s. And his dad, 1,600 acres, is facing foreclosure. And the banker brings Rick into his office, says to go, and he says, you want to bail your dad out? Long and short of it, yes. What's the first thing they did? Sold all this expensive iron and went with no-till. Because equipment and fuel and all the chemicals you use, what you get left is after you spend all that.
I thought you were gonna say that the farmer bought or the banker bought the farm at pennies on the dollar is what I thought you were gonna say. No, it really is, you know, you look at the return on the investment. People always talk about, I got X number of bushels. Okay, you got X number of bushels, but what did that cost you to get that? Was the extra yield worth what the inputs that you had? Most likely no. Most likely no. And I was kind of excited when fertilizer prices were so high. I thought, okay, maybe this will help people bring it back a little bit, dial it back. You know, when we work with the farmers on their nutrient management plans, they're like, well, you know, the co-op told me that I need to put this on there. I'm like, well, they're selling you something, right? Are we selling you anything? No, we're trying to help you save money. You know, do a test strip and find out that, you know, this area I put 150 on, this area I put 120 on, this area I put, you know, half of that on, and see what the difference is.